Part 2. Money Skills. Chapter 4. Skills for Keeping and Growing Money. In Chapter 1, I introduced 5 financial success skills: giving, spending, managing, saving and creating. In this chapter, we will explore them further from both a positive and negative perspective. Notice any traits that sound like you. Giving money. We all give money, be it to friends, family, charities, or the people we interact with on a day-to-day basis. The skill of giving correctly and our choices around giving money or choosing not to give are critical to our overall financial success. Knowing when to give, to whom, for what and how much is key. Positive giving skills. Giving the right amount. Not giving makes us smaller. Giving allows us to use the fabulous power of money to do good, either to treat someone or to make a difference in their life. It is critical that you give the amount that will help the receiver, but do not give so much that you end up with financial problems of your own. Giving money should never mean taking someone else's problem and making it yours. For example, if your adult child has a debt that they can't repay and you take it on, leaving you with a debt that you can't repay, then you have damaged yourself financially and not helped them to develop the financial skills that they need for success. The best-selling author Andrew Priestley says in his book The Money Chimp, "Giving should not hurt the giver." Giving at the right time. It is important to give when someone needs help. If someone's life could be changed for the better by your financial help, then it is definitely the right time to give. A friend of mine knew a single parent who had been involved in a terrible accident. My friend paid for the specialist physiotherapy that made a huge difference to the quality of the woman's life and her children. It is also important that you don't give at a time when it harms your own finances. For example, if you really want to give to someone but lack the funds, then wait until you do have the money. Giving to the right cause or person. The recipient should be something or someone you believe in. You should not give because you feel pressured or made to feel guilty. Giving for the right reason. Give as much as you can and give often, because giving is good for everyone involved. Give because it feels right for you and because you believe the recipient would really benefit, not to have power over or to induce obligation or guilt. Giving without expecting anything in return. It's a good exercise occasionally to give to someone who doesn't know who you are and you will never meet again. It's really nice to treat people and good to be able to share the fruits of your financial success. Giving while expecting something in return leads to resentment, damaged relationships, and even the loss of deep friendships. Key negative markers or lack of giving skills. Abdicating. This refers to handing over money when you know the other person should take financial responsibility for themselves. One man had an alcoholic daughter who claimed she could not work because she kept getting fired. He supported her financially throughout her life, even buying her a house. Of course, she stayed a non-working alcoholic all her life. Had he withdrawn financial support when she was a young adult, there is a chance she might have realised that the only possibility of success would be for her to take responsibility for herself. It takes courage and conviction to say no to someone whose financial skills are underdeveloped, especially if you are close. A brave and caring person understands that everyone needs to learn financial skills and responsibility, and not to expect someone else to be accountable for them. Keeping all your money and never giving any. Never giving is a sorry state of affairs. A client of mine had over £80,000 in a savings account and a high salary of around £5,000 a month. When we worked together, we discovered that he always felt poor and short of money. He never gave money to anyone because he felt he never had enough to spare. I set him an exercise to give without any expectation of return. We agreed that he would set an amount that would be a stretch for him, but still doable. After a month, he came back and revealed that he had given £5 to a charity. I felt sad for him because he was just as mean to himself as he was to everyone else. Giving when we should not be giving. Lending money. If someone asks you if they can borrow money from you, beware. If you would not have given it as a gift without being asked, then don't do it. More often than not, you will not get it back, and this is why a great many relationships are soured, if not ruined. Either give it as a gift or say no. Working for clients with a record of non-payment. This affects some people's financial success enormously because they do not pursue those who owe them money. Some even continue to work for people who repeatedly pay very late or even not at all. I know a fabulous builder who is owed tens of thousands of pounds by non-paying clients, many of whom he has returned to work for again. Undercharging. Undercharging for your services is technically giving away your wealth. Understand, if you undercharge, you might find it difficult to achieve financial success. Spending money. Some people believe there is no skill to spending money. Anyone can do it. To others, spending on anything that is not absolutely necessary should be avoided, and the very cheapest option is what they choose every time. However, as my research progressed, it became apparent that many people identified spending money wisely as a critical component of financial success. This is what personal finance advisor and best-selling author Ramit Sethi would call conscious spending. Positive spending skills. Understanding that money is a tool to be used wisely to make your life better. The ability to see the financial big picture. Your spending decisions should ideally be in line with your overall financial goals. For you, this might be financial freedom at 50, it might be travelling the world at 40, or retiring and opening a donkey sanctuary at 60. Whatever your long-term financial aim, you must have a financial plan to achieve it. If you have allocated a great deal of your existing money for savings and investments, or building a business, an impulsive purchase not critical to your goal could easily set you back or completely derail your future life plans. So it is important for this skill that you are making financial decisions in line with your overall financial strategy, that you are buying with your long-term goals in mind, and that you are spending as much as you can afford on the things that really matter to you and that create your desired lifestyle. Being so frugal that you sacrifice things that matter to you is not spending money wisely. Not using money that you have can make your life hard, uncomfortable, or downright miserable. The key here is to spend as much as you can, without derailing your long-term financial goals, on what you value, rather than spending on unimportant things that don't add value. For example, we spend on education, extra tuition and school fees, because that's what we value. But we don't spend extra on cars because that's not important to us. Key negative indicators. Spending mistakes. Not understanding that money is a tool to be used wisely to make your life better. Making spending decisions that make your life worse in the longer term. For example, buying cheap, unhealthy food when you can afford good quality food, because that will cause you health issues in the long run. Not spending on things that really matter to you. If going out, or cars, or an obscure hobby is really important to you, then use some of your money for that. Spending when you cannot afford to. Spending on credit cards or finance plans to buy anything that is not of a very high priority. impulse buying instead of delaying gratification, short-term gain, long-term pain, not seeking the best price, buying purely for price and not value, keeping up with the Joneses, falling for marketing or selling hype, not thoroughly understanding any finance deal or product that you're taking on, or getting pressurised into spending. Spending money you don't have. Choosing to spend borrowed money is spending money you don't have. Unless you keep it firmly under control and to a minimum, this habit will severely impede your financial success. Paying bills or money you owe late. This is about the importance of making payments or giving back money owed on time, a subject not often talked about. Sometimes we pay late, believing that finding money for a payment will be too hard, and that those to whom we owe money won't miss it or be adversely affected. Some even feel entitled to pay late and declare that the other party should have budgeted for a late payment. One parent I know had a child who attended a small, struggling private school. The fees which went directly to pay the teachers had to be paid at the beginning of each term, but they chose to pay at the end of the year and felt entitled to do so. It caused cash flow issues for the school, but the staff did not want to ask him to take their child out of the school for the child's sake. Occasionally people have to be chased to hand over money they owe, and this can lead to big financial problems as the offender becomes known for being a late payer and gets a bad credit rating. Not repaying. In 2008, working as a debt advisor, I saw how some people ended up in a toxic spiral of debt through a catastrophic life event such as an accident, a health crisis, job loss or a divorce. Some situations were heartbreaking, but I was amazed and inspired by the ones who afterwards got themselves and their finances back on track, turning their lives around. Often this would take years of hard work and determination. However, I also saw many with a chronic pattern of borrowing and not repaying. Some of these people were well off and still had poor ethics and skills in this area. Not repaying the money agreed for a service, product or loan already consumed is a deliberate choice some people make. They often believe that they will repay the debt someday, or else just ignore the repayment requests, reasoning that the person or business that trusted them to pay doesn't need the money as much as they do. I've seen many cases where the borrower feels entitled to the money and resentful at any attempts to recover it, firmly believing that they are being victimised by the person who wants and has the right to be paid. When working as a debt advisor, I often saw people first turning to friends and family when borrowing money. Failing or refusing to give back what they had promised frequently led to families falling out, lost and broken friendships, bitterness, resentment and broken trust. In some cases, the family member or friend had lent money they couldn't afford to lose and ended up financially compromised themselves. The recalcitrant borrowers, having exhausted all the softer options, would then borrow from institutions and loan sharks who knew their patterns and would intimidate them to redeem the money. Managing money. I was taught the skill of managing money at school in Ireland 35 years ago. The subject was called home economics, though it was nothing like the food technology education our kids now get. The focus was on keeping a good home and table, making sure everyone had what they needed, food, basic clothing, etc., and top marks were given for making a little go a long way. We were taught how to make cheap, nutritious meals, learning what constituted true value in terms of food, and what was just more expensive because of perception of being better, when in fact it wasn't. We discovered that cheap and expensive cuts of meat have the same nutritional content. And, with expensive branded goods, most of the cost was paying for that branding. We learned how to turn any leftovers into a meal, how to make clothes last longer and how to repair them, how to minimise fuel consumption costs, how to decorate, make bed linen, clothing, and myriad other household management techniques. My granny and auntie were brilliant at managing money. Auntie Eva used to boil a kettle of water in the morning and store it in a thermos for tea throughout the day, rather than repeatedly using fuel for reboiling it. To manage money, they used the 3 jars method. 1 jar for rent and bills, 1 jar for upcoming expenses, such as school uniforms and shoes and so on, and the last jar for family consumption such as food and treats. There was one very important rule. Once the jar was empty, that was it. No more spending until money came in again and the jar was replenished. Doing without was common. Positive money management skills. Prioritising spending. Allocating money for specific purposes. Cleverly stretching resources and food, upcycling clothing, etc. to make a little money go a long way. Planning the use of resources to ensure everyone has what they need, even if not what they want, and always having enough resources to do what you need. Key negative indicators or lack of money management skills. Not prioritising spending decisions properly. Wasting food, energy or money on unnecessary items. Spending too much and not being able to cover a bill. Not having enough resources as a result of being wasteful. Not planning for upcoming expenses. Not keeping track of spending. Not adjusting spending decisions in line with priorities and how much is left. Saving money. The key skill for saving money is to pay yourself first. Save a specified amount every payday before you spend anything. Automate this so it's easy and never becomes an issue. People who are good at saving inevitably amass large sums. They will have set aside the emergency fund and 6 months living expenses that all financially successful people allow for. They will also have savings for investment goals and the future. Positive saving skills. Paying yourself first. Always, no matter what. Being good at spotting financial risk. Getting the best rates and financial deals on savings accounts, financial products and pensions. Automating accounts to ensure you save money. Not spending your savings. And having savings goals. Key negative indicators or lack of saving skills. Spending your savings. Not saving first or automating your savings. Not deferring gratification. Being a carefree spendthrift and not having any savings. Creating money. There are 2 key skills to creating money: value and leverage. Those who are skilled at creating money save to invest. Creating value. Creating value is all about creating goods or services that another person or group values enough to exchange money for. Examples include items of food, clothing, online training courses, apps, distribution channels, in fact anything that someone else is willing to pay for. The essence in the creation is to produce something that makes or sells for more money than it costs to put the constituent parts together. This is the first step to wealth creation. Creating leverage. Leverage is the ability to use resources to speed up wealth creation. We are all equal in having 24 hours in a day. The difference comes from how we use it. Somebody who earns £10 an hour and saves will take a long time to reach the sum of £1 million. Very few people earn enough to save that amount, even over many years. A person who understands the power of leverage can reach this amount much faster. The more a person learns to use leverage, the faster his or her financial growth. People who successfully employ leverage accomplish exponentially more in the same time as those who don't. Types of leverage. There are 4 critical types of leverage that enable you to achieve maximum success in the shortest possible time. These are other people's money, other people's time, other people's knowledge, and technology. Let's listen to each in turn. Other people's money. Financial leverage is using money belonging to others to significantly increase the yields you can achieve on the assets you invest in. For example, if you invest £1,000 and receive an annual return of £100, then you have realised a yield of 10%, and your £1,000 has grown to £1,100. If you used the same £1,000 but borrowed an additional £9,000 and invested £10,000 at the same yield percentage of 10%, you would have made a return of £1,000, or 10 times as much as under the original scenario. If the cost of borrowing the money is £500 over the borrowing period, you will still realise a net return of £500 on your original £1,000. £1,000 being the original sum that you've personally brought to the table at the outset. This is a 50% yield, which is significantly higher than realised by the investment of your original £1,000 alone. Using £9,000 in borrowed money and only £1,000 of your own money is a typical example of financial leverage as used in property investing. Some professional investors are able to reduce their investment contribution in a given opportunity to substantially less than 10% of the total amount invested, thus further boosting yields. Using margin to buy stock. Another example of financial leverage is the use of margin to buy stocks. Margin is essentially a loan, where a brokerage firm lends money to an investor to buy more stock. This comes at a cost and carries risk. Interest is paid on this loan, and if the value of the stocks pledged as collateral decreases below a preset limit, the investor will experience a margin call, where he or she will have to deposit further cash or securities to cover possible losses. The purchase of stocks on margin is a tool used by many rich people. For example, a share of Fred & Co. costs £5. An ordinary investor has £1,000 to invest and buys 200 shares. The shares increase in price by 25%, so the investor makes £250. Using leverage, an investor borrows £10,000 on margin at 15% interest, £1,500. The shares increase by 25%, so he makes £2,500. He repays £1,500, thus making a final profit of £1,000. Options. An option is where you have the right, but not the obligation to buy something for a given price in the future. For an investor, being able to buy an option provides inherent financial leverage. You do not need to borrow capital to buy options, which means you can control a larger number of shares with your initial investment amount than if you purchased the shares themselves. For example, if you had £1,000, you could purchase 10 shares of Fred & Co. valued at £100 per share. Or you could buy option contracts that might be valued at £200 for lots of 100 shares. That is £2 per option. So for your investment of £1,000, you could buy 5 options contracts, increasing your financial leverage by allowing you to control 500 shares instead of just 10. First, consider the case of just buying shares directly. If, during the option contract, the value of those shares rises substantially, you could buy the shares that you have the right to buy at an agreed price, that is the strike price, which at that point is much lower than the market value. You can then resell those shares at market value, generating a profit on a much larger number of shares than the ones you would have purchased originally if you had bought the 10 shares with your £1,000. To execute this trade, you would need to have access to a lot more capital in order to purchase the shares that your options entitle you to buy, albeit for a short time only, and be willing to take the risk of the market price suddenly dropping before you have the opportunity to resell your shares. Let's say the strike price of the shares is £100 and the value of the shares increases by 25% as before. You agree to exercise your option to buy the shares once they reach this value of increase. The best source of financial leverage in this investment comes from the fact that the percentage increase on the option is proportionately higher than the increase of the underlying share. This leverage also comes without the risk of investing the much greater amounts of capital needed to buy and sell the shares the options give you the right to buy instead. In the hypothetical purchase mentioned previously, let's say that the value of the shares increases from £100 per share to £125 per share. If you bought these 10 shares, the profit on your investment of £1,000 would be £250, or a 25% increase. On the other hand, spending £1,000 to generate £11,500 is an increase of over 1,000%. This much higher potential increase is how trading options can effectively create leverage. Of course, the potential loss is also higher, but your exposure is limited to £1,000. Understanding financial leverage, the advantage and risks, is very important in trading options. With good trading strategies, using leverage can allow you to maximise your returns whilst minimising your risk. Expansion. Other examples of financial leverage include companies borrowing money to expand operations. The benefit of the leverage comes from the increased property value or higher company revenue, which raises the value of stockholder shares. Rich people learn to use financial leverage. They start small, continually learning and leveraging until they have larger amounts to leverage. Other people's time. The use of financial leverage alone is not sufficient to accelerate growth to the maximum. To build wealth more quickly, leveraging other people's time is vital. Those with a rich money mindset strategically plan how to leverage others' time in their personal and business lives. The majority of the population fail to grasp the importance of implementing multiple leverage strategies. So when they think of making more money, they think in terms of working more hours. This type of linear thinking is contrary to the way most rich individuals view the world. Leveraging time. Let's look at a specific example. Assume you have set up a contract to manufacture garments, and you are manufacturing 10,000 a week at 10 pence each, and that would give you £1,000 a week. You either need to clone yourself or leverage more time to achieve success. If you employ 20 employees at £300 each per week, and each of them produces 10,000 garments a week, that would give you 200,000 garments a week, giving you £20,000 a week. Take away £6,000 for wages and £4,000 for other expenses associated with running a bigger operation, and you are now making £10,000 a week. You have effectively leveraged your time through others, resulting in a tenfold increase in your profits for inputting the same amount of time. Examples of the use of time leverage are almost infinite, ranging from building a business with contract or salaried employees to hiring a decorator to paint your house while you improve your leverage systems. If you intend to achieve significant wealth, You must not only focus on the use of financial leverage, but also on finding creative ways to leverage the time of others in a win-win fashion, resulting in positive financial returns. Other people's knowledge. In addition to time and financial leverage, it is also essential to leverage the knowledge and skills of others. This is not only through studying others' knowledge, like through books and recordings and seminars and blogs and forums, but also through using others' talents to achieve greater output than you can generate alone. I have seen business people waste months learning to build a mediocre website rather than pay someone to build a great one, giving them time to focus on growing their business. Rich people build a team of people that have the knowledge that their business needs in order to grow. There is a story about Henry Ford, an entrepreneur who really understood how to develop significant wealth. During an interview, the reporter was trying to show that Henry was not very intelligent by continually asking him technical questions. When Ford could not answer, the reporter started to berate him about his lack of knowledge, but Ford simply responded by picking up the phone and putting the question to one of his employees. After another question, he did the same thing. Then he turned to the reporter and he said, "I don't need to know all of the answers to run a successful company. I've hired people to answer the questions for me so I can concentrate on steering the ship." To achieve maximum wealth and success, surround yourself with people whose knowledge you can leverage for greater growth. Technology. Finally, to achieve financial success in this digital age, it is essential to leverage technology, particularly the internet. The digital age is an exciting revolution, and we are living through it right now. Associated technologies allow operational efficiency and a level of sophistication that cannot otherwise be achieved. We've all heard of young billionaires who achieve incredible wealth by leveraging technology before the age of 25. The large corporation, with huge investments in resources ranging from property, staff, IT systems and money, is now just one way of doing business, albeit a more traditional one. Taking the more agile example of e-commerce, anyone is now capable of sourcing and creating a product, selling globally, collecting payments and dispatching goods, all with ease, using current technology, and of course even from their own home. It infinitely increases our ability to connect with others, particularly through social media, which enables the creation of niche markets and the formation of a tribe, a group of individuals who love and believe in what you offer and will happily promote your product or service. Forming and building a brand is now within reach of every new business owner. The ability to systemize and automate processes, data management, customer contact, outsourcing, etc., frees time and resources that allow sustainable growth and wealth generation. In business, connection is vital to growth and survival, and without successfully leveraging technology, any business will be limited. Action steps. Go back through the 5 financial skills and the positive and negative traits for giving, spending, managing, saving, and creating. Which ones are most like you? Can you think of specific examples that relate to you personally and professionally? Especially, re-listen to the section to do with creating value and leverage. Did you actually stop and think about the value and leverage case studies? Or did you gloss over them? If you have anything other than a rich money mindset, this section will feel unfamiliar, and you probably felt it didn't apply to you. So stretch yourself and re-listen to the